Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you today.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you for having me.
Really excited to have you on today, Sarah, which is a public speaker and does workshops around camera confidence, which is just, I think, so crucial in the age that we're living in now.
hmm
I thought it'd be really interesting just to explore a bit of your background, your career as well. Also, you've done some volunteering at the Olympics. Is there anything that, as an introduction, have I missed anything, Sarah?
No, I think that's it. I mean, one thing I will add is that today, for the first time ever, I am actually doing an interview from my boat because the Wi-Fi at home is total rubbish. So I'm actually on my boat. So this isn't normally where I work. So one of the things I've had to do is adapt and get the lighting. So I've had to do all the things that I teach other people to do. It's about, if you take nothing else away from conversation today, it's about knowing how to get your setup right and being comfortable with it not being perfect. Because we spend a lot of time looking for perfection. This is not a perfect setup. It's as good as I can get with where I am. And actually, it's good enough.
It's good. It looks really good. So if you start moving around like this a bit, it's because you're on the water.
Well, thankfully, it's not windy. Yesterday
Yeah.
it was really windy.
Brilliant. I love that. So great top tip even to start off with.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really felt like I had a career, and there's a lot
Right.
of emphasis and importance attached to what's your chosen career, what are you going to do with your life, what career path are you going to follow. And I can remember, age 14, sitting there and they're saying, what do you want to do when you leave school? And it's like, and you had to write something, and I wrote down be a wren in the Navy because my dad was in
Did
the
you?
Navy, and it got people off my back. They stopped asking me the question. So I have my school testimonial which says Sarah's ambition is to be a wren in the Navy. I had no interest whatsoever in it. I mean, I get horribly seasick on the ocean. It would just be nonsense. So that was age 14. Age 16, I didn't do quite so well it was O-levels and GCEs in those
Yes.
days.
Yes, myself as well.
And Spandau Ballet were at the top of the charts, giving away my age. You know, I didn't do badly, but I didn't do brilliantly. And the big thing for me was I didn't get O-level maths. In fact, I didn't even take O-level maths. I took CSE maths, which was the one below, and didn't do. I think I got a grade 3,
Right.
which
Yeah.
wasn't worth anything to anybody else. I mean, it was a struggle for me, and I was quite pleased with that, to be honest. We won't talk about the grade 4 for physics.
Gosh,
Dreadful.
didn't even take physics. That sounds too.
Yeah. And then because when I went to sixth form college, which I was really looking forward to, and doing A levels, I was only allowed to do 2 A levels because I didn't have O level maths. And
Okay.
it wasn't my choice. College insisted that I had to have the equivalent of O level maths, and I did something called a CEE, a certificate of
Okay.
extended education, and I got a grade 1 because it was actually useful maths. It was calculating interest on mortgages, it was managing bank accounts, it was all the things that people talk about now that don't get covered. And I actually, for the first time in my life, I enjoyed maths because I could do it. I
So it's more
discovered in my 40s.
practical
Yeah.
maths then. Yeah.
I discovered in my 40s that I've actually got mild dyscalculia, and that's why I struggled with maths,
Okay.
because I was top stream for everything except maths. So I've gone through my entire career without O-level maths. Every job application I've ever filled in, every interview, it's always been on that piece of paper. Nobody knows what a CE is. I think I've gone through my entire career with people thinking I've made a spelling mistake writing down what my qualification was. And I think the point of that is that not having it hasn't stopped me although I don't really think of it as a career, it hasn't stopped me doing things I've enjoyed. It hasn't stopped me getting promoted. It hasn't stopped me being successful. So I think there's a really important message there. There's a lot of emphasis now put onto exams and results and all that kind of stuff. And it matters a lot in the moment. It matters a lot right now. But 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's not going to matter.
Exactly. Like, throughout my career as well, probably the same as you, you start off putting those qualifications on. No one ever really asks you later on, do they? And it can be like for people getting A levels and their GCSE results, it is massive at the time, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of
But
course it
actually,
is.
as you go on in your career, you find your path, which is for you, don't you?
And that's the important thing. It's the finding that path. I got 2 E's in my A levels. I wasn't really that interested. I got 2 E's, and that meant, well, I had to go and get a job. And back when I was doing my qualifications, we didn't have what we have now, which is like, it's kind of assumed that you're going to go stay in education beyond 18. You're going to go in. You're either going to do an apprenticeship in employment, or you're going to go to university. Hardly anyone at my sixth form college went to university, and I was at a really good sixth form college. It was hardly anybody went. So leave school, leave college at 18, no idea what I want to do. But the summer I was 18, I worked as a barmaid. And it's
Okay.
probably the best job I've ever had.
Right. Okay. Why was it so good then? What was great about it?
Because I was 18 and I was working in a bar, and the people coming into the bar were the yacht crews.
Oh, okay. That sounds good.
And actually, it was the year that Simon Le Bon did the Round the World Whitbread crew. And although I never met Simon Le Bon, despite being a massive Duran Duran fan, I did get to know his crew, and we just had a laugh. We had a lot of fun. It was really good, and it was sort of, there's a bit of a sliding doors moment there of, but I
And
went and
do
got a
you
proper
think
job.
that work helped you in, do you know what I mean, in your next step in your career? Do you think that those skills you took forward with you?
I think so, because and it was only, it was only a couple of years ago that I realised just how much I learned in that job. Yes, it was fun and it was exciting, and you could say a little bit glamorous with these lovely yacht crews around. But it was only a couple of years ago, and I was doing an exercise when I was doing my NLP practitioner, and we were asked to do a timeline of our jobs. And then you had to say, which ones did you enjoy the most and which ones did you learn the most? And it hit me at that moment that it was being the barmaid, because I was very not shy, but I'm quite an introvert. So I remember the first shift I did in the pub, and the other barmaid said, well, this is what you do. There's the beer, there's the sink, there's the till. And off she went. And then suddenly I've got people coming at me, and they want their beer, and they want their the people that had particular glasses, they had their own glass behind the bar and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like, oh God, I'm going to have to deal with this. And it's like, well, it was pretty scary, and it was pretty anxious, but as I say, it was a lot of fun. And it's that being able to strike up a conversation, make a connection, be out of my comfort zone, do something I'd never done before. And it was literally only a couple of years ago when I was doing that NLP qualification that I realised where I'd started to hone those skills. Because to this day, I'm not wild about walking into a room where I don't already know people. A room, it's like if I'm going to a networking event, I'm more comfortable than I used to be. But those are the skills that I use when I walk into that room to strike up conversations and give me the confidence to approach people I don't know that maybe I wouldn't speak to normally. So it was a really interesting thing to do, because after that I got myself a Christmas job, because I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I went to Boots the Chemist,
Okay.
which was
So
dull.
again, very customer focused though, isn't it? Those
Yeah.
two jobs, you're dealing with the public, and I'm going to say using your maths because it's all money,
Well,
it was a lot of cash, wasn't it? It was the day before we had, everything was digital.
Well, I mean, in the pub, you had all the prices on the optics and things, and you had to add it up in your head, because you didn't have those little buttons with a picture of a pint on it like you do now. You actually had to add it up and work out all this sort of stuff. And so it was that was really good for my confidence as well, because I was doing arithmetic in my head, and it was for the first time. It's like, yeah, I can actually do this. Yeah, and a lot of my early career, and actually I guess throughout my career to a certain extent, I've always had a role that's had an element of dealing with other people. So I started off in retail, then I went into the civil service, and in the civil service, I worked for the Inland Revenue, and I used to go out with the bailiff and seize people's goods that hadn't paid their tax bills. At the age sort of 20, 21, I was going out with the bailiff, and I was carrying out this trade again, and at that building relationships,
Yes,
being able
yeah.
to interact
And communicate with people, all those, yeah,
Yeah. And
definitely.
eventually I found my way into a training. There was two things that happened, actually. There were two sort of moments that led me into my learning and development career. One, when I was a trainee manager for a large supermarket, which I loathed. I absolutely, it was the culture and the atmosphere and stuff. I hated it. I really was a square peg in a round hole, because that values thing that we talk about a lot of the time, I
Yeah, it
did
was
not
important to you.
have any of that in common with the people, and the culture of the organization was very misogynistic, which
Right.
I don't think we'd invented that word back in
No,
1985.
no, it was.
I don't think we knew what it meant. And I remember going on a training course, and there was somebody up the front delivering the training, and I'm sitting there looking at them thinking, how do I get out of this job? And I was like, I could do what you're doing so much better than you. And I remember that little seed being, was like, how do I get, and I knew it wouldn't happen in that organization.
So there's a bit of a light bulb moment there about this is, and I know because we do know each other, that you done stage or, when you were younger, didn't you? So you thought
Absolutely.
this would work. Light bulb moment.
Yeah, and it was literally because, as you say, I'd done lots of stuff on stage. I'd done drama and ballet and all that kind of stuff. Very happy being up the front. And I was like, yeah, that is something I could do. And then it kind of got parked. So I would say I was about 22. In fact, I was probably about 20 when that happened. And then it got parked. And it was about another 5 or 6 years later when I'm in the Inland Revenue, and I'm getting a bit, I went from the tax collectors into the tax inspectors. And for somebody with dyscalculia, and no, and we didn't have computers to work it out for us in those
Wow.
days. I would go on the training courses, and they would do the calculations for somebody's tax bill, and I could follow it through, because they were giving you the figure and they were telling you what order to do it in. I would go back to the office thinking I've got that, and I would sit there and I would spend the day staring at pieces of paper. It's like, I've got to get out of this. This is awful. I just don't want to be here. And a job came up. They were creating a new training team, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And I got the role. And I remember, because they were interviewing while I was on holiday. I was away on the Norfolk Broads with some friends, and they said, well, the interview's that day. If you want to be interviewed, you have to turn up that day. And we reorganised the whole holiday so that the boat came in. There were 12 of us on this trip. So the boat came in to somewhere where I could get to a station, that I could get to London, I could do the interview, and then they would pick me up later. I mean, it was a
Wow. That's
massive
good friends.
logistic.
That's very good friends.
Oh, I got heavily fined for it, shall we say. I got heavily fined for it. But I made the effort because it was something I really wanted
Yes.
to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got it.
So it's almost like seeing that opportunity, isn't it? When you're in something and, that moment that you'd had all those years ago, and then, right, this could be my opportunity to do what I enjoy doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember the first day I walked into that job, I was like, finally, I am somewhere I want to be. And I'm somewhere where I can be more me and use all of those skills that I already had. And basically, I pretty much stayed in training, delivery and facilitation for the rest of my corporate and business. I had a brief break. So I did stuff in the civil service. I did stuff in local government. And the interesting thing was, every time I chased a more senior post or got a more senior post, I found myself being pulled back to the delivery and the facilitation.
Interesting.
So
Yes.
when you get into those more senior posts, and it's about, well, you've got to do the needs analysis, and you've got to do the evaluations, and you've got to do the strategy and all this sort of thing. I'm not a strategy kind of girl. Okay, Sandra, what do you want to learn today? What is it that you're finding difficult to do? Let's find a way to. That's me. That's where my strength is. And again, it took me quite a few years to realise that. And I had a brief stint where I was self-employed as well. And I was doing stuff around NVQs and sitting with people and helping them to see that they did have skills, that they did have value, just because they didn't have a long list of GCSEs and they hadn't gone to university. And that I loved doing. And kind of has now all come together, the coaching, the NLP, the customer service bit, the working with people bit, the helping people make the best of the skills and recognise the skills that they have. And that's why I'm here today. And that's without O-level maths and 2 E's. But I did go to university eventually. I decided in the early 2000s to do an open university course. And I also have a BA honours in history.
Brilliant. Well done. And that just goes to show, doesn't it, that at any time in your career that you can go, I know my brother went off to university in I think he was his mid-20s, and got his degree. So you can go at any time. And I really like what you just said there about the MVQs, because study isn't for everybody, is it? But you have other skills that can
Absolutely.
transfer into other jobs. So there's always other options, isn't there, available?
Yeah, I mean, a percentage in a situation where you sat down for 2.5 hours and you are entirely judged on that percentage that you scored in that 2.5 hours. To me, the emphasis, that's not about the pupil. We're probably going a little bit off topic here, but that's not about in the best interest of the pupil and what can this individual achieve. It's about, statistics and performance tables. But I mean, I'll give you two examples in my own world, apart from me, of where the more vocational side of things comes into play. So I've got a brother who's 2 years older than me, and he didn't pay as much attention at school as maybe he should have done, like lots of boys, like lots of girls as well. And he came out of school and minimal qualifications, and initially he didn't get awarded an apprenticeship, and he didn't know what he was going to do. And at the last minute, somebody pulled out of an apprenticeship at British Aerospace, which was the big local employer to us. And he got, like, with a week to go before he would have to go to college or something, he got this last minute offer of an apprenticeship.
Really? Wow.
And he went to British Aerospace, and he's still in the aviation industry. He's been all over. He's in a role where he's the one who, when something goes wrong with the plane, he certifies the plane fit to fly when the repair has been done. So it's a huge amount of responsibility. He's got all of his certifications. He can sign off just about any kind of plane. But he left school and was in that jeopardy situation of, I don't have anything. I don't have an apprenticeship. I don't have any qualifications. I don't have a job. Can imagine the conversations that my parents were having with him. And he's had his 60th birthday this year, and he's still in aviation and he still loves it.
There you go. And again, I suppose anybody watching this, if you haven't got the exam results that you
There is
wanted,
something
there are other options available, aren't there?
The one which I think is worth it is, if we're mainly focusing on the sort of exam side at the moment, so we'll stay in that area. And it's like there is that assumption that people are going to, GCSEs, A levels, university, you get into this funnel, you're being fed through. For a lot of people, that is brilliant and they really thrive, and going to university is a great experience. But and this applies to older people who are maybe thinking of changing jobs. It's like, you've got to find the thing that you enjoy. And if university isn't for you, that's okay. My nephew went to university because he was at a sixth form college where it wasn't an option not to go to uni. And he didn't really want to go to uni. He wanted to go into the Navy. But he went to uni and he was so unhappy. He was
Right,
so
okay.
unhappy. And he saw it. I think he stayed for his first year, and it was in his second year. He just turned around and he said, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. But he was in completely the wrong place, the wrong environment, it wasn't for him. And I think whether it's going to uni or finding a job, the most important thing is to find something that you enjoy. I would have loved to have been an actress on stage in the West End. That didn't happen.
But you never know. There's still time, Sarah.
Not with my singing voice, there isn't. But I found a way to use all of those skills, those performance skills, those people skills, and had a really interesting time in learning and development. I had fun. I met lots of interesting people. I got to do interesting things using that skill set. You might not be doing the thing that you said, that's what I want to do, but there will be somewhere where those skills will apply. You will enjoy it. And there will be moments when you're in a job where you're like, oh God, is this my life? And no, it isn't. It's just your life right at this moment. It's not forever.
Yeah. There's always options out there. And so you've now got your own business, which you set up. And so I'd love to explore that as well, because I think for anybody watching, wherever you are in your career, being on camera we think that we're used to it because we've done it in COVID, but there's a lot of people that still, even myself, we spend a lot of time on camera, but what you train on is really interesting, isn't it? And, like you talk about your lighting and all that. And you are a public speaker, so I've seen you talk and you're amazing. You can really see those aha moments when people are like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. And we're probably on our phone, our cameras the whole time. So just talk a little bit through what you do, and maybe we could sort of share some top tips with people. I think that'd be really fascinating.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for those lovely compliments. That's always, it's like checks in the post. But no, I mean, I found my way into doing the camera side of things completely by accident. Again, I left corporate in 2019 when I took redundancy. I qualified as a coach. I did my NLP practitioner, and I was floundering around trying to work out who I wanted to work with. And it's because it's all about the find your niche and who's your ideal client and all this. And I honestly didn't know. And then one day somebody said to me, well, in fact, I was challenged to do something on camera as part of a group, a mentoring group I was in. And this is the person who's spent more than 30 years at the front of the room delivering. I've spoken in front of up to 10,000 people, only for a couple of minutes, but there were 10,000 people there. And I'm sitting there not looking at the camera going, I'm going to have to start in a minute. And I just felt sick. And I eventually got myself together enough, lots of deep breaths, lots of press start. I'm going to press start. And I delivered, I went in, I completed the challenge. I delivered a 15-minute session into the Facebook group. And everybody was like, God, you're so good on camera, Sarah. You're a real natural. And suddenly I was back in that learning and development space. I was back at the front. I couldn't see my audience. That felt weird. I couldn't see their responses. I didn't know if anybody was listening. All of that's going on in my head. Is there anybody there? Does anybody care? But as the minute I got into the presenting bit, it was like I'd suddenly come home. It's like, this is the thing that I was there to do. And to cut a long story short, I've found my way into, and there's two strands to what I do. There's the talking to corporates about why people aren't switching on their cameras in the online meetings, and how to get people to do that. And the answer to that is not to tell people to do it. You need to find out why people aren't switching on their cameras. Do they know how to use the software even?
Which is massive, isn't it? And, I've done some training recently where I've turned up and there's been 40 people and no cameras on. And it's, so it is definitely a thing. And that was a large organisation. So, yeah.
So there's that element of it. So there's the talks and the workshops. And then I also work with business owners. So I've had a conversation this morning with somebody who they do webinars and lives and things, and they want to present themselves better. And it's different when you're on camera. And there's a real difference. I don't really notice the difference when I'm on camera now because I present the way that I present when I'm in person. Most people don't come on camera the way that they would show up in person. And it's about energy, it's about movement, it's about staying in line for the camera and the lighting. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't got my glasses on today and here's one for the audience. Like, as soon as I put them on,
yes, you can see the reflection on your
yeah.
glasses.
So I've had to make the compromise today. I'm on my boat. I've got a light attached to the top of my laptop. It means I can't wear my glasses.
Yeah.
So you're in lovely soft focus today.
Yes, probably for the best.
And it's just giving people people will say, I've spoken to other fellow professional speakers and they say to me, I hate being on camera, but you'll go up on stage and talk to a huge audience and engage them and entertain and inspire and inform and all that stuff. Don't come on camera. And part of it is we know that people don't like having their photos taken. I think most of us at some point have all no pictures kind of thing. And there's that sense when we're on camera it feels like, God, is that what I really look like? And I love doing what I do because when you see somebody go from badly lit, not showing up, not really taking part, they don't switch their cameras on, and then they switch on their camera and they're confident and they stop looking for the perfect setup. And we had a conversation this morning about what type of camera. It's like, well, do you actually even need to buy a camera? So it's not just the mindset stuff that I deal with. It's also that practical stuff of, well, what have you got? What do you need? Don't go and buy stuff. I need a big expensive microphone. And there's also, when it comes to the corporate side of things, I mean, there's an assumption being made that everyone now knows how to do it. Everybody knows about Zoom. I don't know of any corporate organizations that actually deliver or delivered Zoom training when it's
No,
happened, because we went home in COVID and we just had to find, yeah. And I'll go and do a talk. We went out, we went to an event recently, and I, as you know, I gave a little talk, and it's like that. Things like switching off your self view, so you don't see yourself on camera when you're in that meeting, can make things a lot more comfortable because you're not distracted by your image. I mean, I get
because
distracted
you're just drawn
if
to
I can
yourself,
see
aren't you?
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what's my hair doing? So things, and people are like, I didn't know you could do that. I actually had one lady say to me that she had a piece of tape and that she would put on her screen over her image so she couldn't see it, because she didn't know you could switch off the self view. And I think sometimes we forget that it can be something really, really simple that is blowing up into a big thing that's stopping somebody from doing it. And as a manager, if you've got people that are not switching on in a Zoom meeting, it's not, there's a real risk that people will make assumptions. Oh, she's not switching on because she's not interested. Well, I'm not
She's
going to
off
bother
making a
with
cup of
that.
tea.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's like,
not
actually,
listening.
it could be the complete opposite of what you just said
Mm,
there, Sandra. It could
yeah,
be
yeah.
you find it easier to listen
Mm,
with the camera
yes.
off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it could be that you don't like people seeing into your home because you live on your own. It could be you don't know how to be on camera because you don't want to be up the front presenting, and you definitely don't want to be on camera. So it's getting the managers to think about, and often the managers themselves, when they're hosting these meetings, they're uncomfortable. They don't like doing it, and it becomes that, well, if I'm having to do it, you're going to have to do it. That's
And
not
you can get friction there as well, can't you? So, which is
causes.
really key. And I think as well, hear from like recruitment agencies that say to me when people are going for jobs that maybe that people might have a messy background, exactly what you were talking about, like that, just that can be quite simple to make a difference, as you've very kindly taught me, that the background can make a difference. But I don't think we always necessarily think about that because we're in day-to-day life doing things, aren't we? And that can just make such a difference.
And it's things like, I mean, I'll give you a quick demo. So if I lift that up like that, yeah. Now, if I'd done this whole thing, that's painful. And people say, "Oh, I need natural light." Well, you know what? That's better. So, and you said about some top tips. I mean, I think one of the key things that I would always get people to think about is the camera angle and the lighting. Obviously, if I move my laptop around, it's like that's a bit too much of the bits I don't want to see. That's not a perfect angle, but it's better. So play around, don't loom. You see people
Yes.
presenting like this, and it's like you wouldn't want somebody coming and standing by your desk and talking over, and that's
That
the
feels
exact
quite
thing.
intimidating. Actually, when you just done that, feels quite intimidating.
It's moving into your personal space.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
play around with your camera angle, and think about the lighting as well. Natural lighting, 100% is the best thing to have. But now, not always. So what I've got here is I've got a window, I've got the curtains open on that side of the boat to bring as much light in. I've got an additional light, one of those ones you get to clip on top of your phone, on top of the laptop, trying to reduce the shadow. And if you're going to use an artificial background, lighting is really key, because if you've got poor lighting, and we saw this yesterday on a call that you and I um,
Yes.
were on, the lighting wasn't great. So the person, you start to disappear and morph, and it doesn't look great. And you put all that effort into creating a lovely background with your logo and your name and your.
And or if you're going for an interview and you want, I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but it can just make a difference and actually can make that conversation much more engaging, can't it? And probably more comfortable for yourself as well, because if you've got that glare behind you, that's a bit off-putting. You talking, and for me, it's
It makes it difficult
that's
to
great.
focus on
Yeah,
the person. And I think from the
yeah.
interview point of view, in particular, there's no escaping the fact that part of an interview process is going to be on camera. And there's a difference between somebody being on camera on their social media where they're choosing to do it and presenting themselves professionally. And the best piece of advice I can give to people in that situation, if you've got an interview coming up and you're not happy about the camera, don't like presenting on camera, practice. Have a play with the platform. So if they say they're going to view you on Zoom, go into Zoom and have a play around and check your lighting, check your camera, but you can't avoid it. The people and people say you can't create connection and engagement on camera. It's not the same in person, so why bother? You absolutely can. How you show up on camera is super important, especially for something like an interview. You want to make a good impression. So I get ready for on camera stuff the way I would in person. I dress as I would. If I was meeting you
The
today, this is
same.
what I would be wearing. This is how I would show up. I mean, if we were going paddleboarding, that would be different. I would be wearing my paddleboarding stuff. Um, but I dress professionally. It's giving that impression, and don't do it from your bedroom. Don't do it from I mean, I appreciate not everyone has a super duper workspace. You can, I'm doing it from my boat. I've got weird coloured vinyl behind me. I've put a sheet over the upholstery because I don't like the colour. Um, you can be creative, have a play, make yourself look good, because the better you feel about how you look, the better you're going to come across, the more confident you are, more likely you are to
Yeah,
be
that's brilliant.
successful. And above all, look at the camera, not the screen. And I know you've seen me do this loads of times before, but right now I'm looking at my own reflection of the screen. Now I'm looking at where you are on the screen. And anybody watching this would be thinking, well, she's not paying me any attention. So my camera is right at the top of my screen on my laptop.
I need to get better at that actually, because my camera's right up there, look. So
Yeah.
I do need to adjust mine. That's one of my
You do, because it's too
things.
hot.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely too high. It's definitely
Yeah.
too high. So
But you
yeah,
don't stare at the camera,
no,
because
I
that would be
know.
like staring at someone in
Yes,
person. So just get used to
I'm
looking at the
always
camera.
learning from you, Sarah. That's why I love talking to you.
You don't want to learn everything. But
That's great.
yeah, a lot of what I do is just getting people to be comfortable with what they already have. Their existing skills, their existing technology, their existing setup, because you can do a lot with almost nothing. I'm not using an external camera. I am using an external microphone and light, but I'm literally just using my laptop today. And it's everything I need to show up and be confident and professional.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. I hope that people find that really helpful, because I know that, you've shared a lot with me, and I'm always, as I say, I'm always learning from you. So that was really, really interesting. You're a public speaker, so you work with corporates, you do workshops, you do a vast amount of stuff. So what I will do is I will put Sarah's details in the description. So if you want to get in touch, highly recommend her, because I've seen her talk before. So little plug for you there, Sarah. So but I'll put your details in there, and, hopefully people will find this of interest and help them towards whatever they're doing on camera. And actually all the information about exams, because I think that is just very key and at the moment for everybody. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed chatting to you today from my boat.
From your boat. You're the first person I've talked to who's on a boat. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you like the video, make sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future uploads of Career Voices.